I'm Donna Q. Teal, and welcome to Flowers, Veggies, and Other Things. Flowers and Veggies and Other Things is a new garden show, and it is exactly what it is. We're going to be talking about a mishmash of everything, right from the basics of how to grow your own bulbs from start to finish, how to winterize herbs, how to plant seeds, how to transplant houseplants, anything that you can think of that you might be doing in your gardens, spring, summer, fall, winter. We are here to help you with that. Two topics in today's session. We are going to be talking to Jan Casper from the Sandwich Garden Club about the beautification project of the Sandwich public restrooms. And then we will also be diving into the town islands and the beautification project there and how everything came about. So come with me and let's go meet Jan. Okay. Hi, welcome. I have Jan Casper here with me today from the Sandwich Garden Club. We are here to talk about a very sexy and not so sexy part of gardening. Is a project that the Sandwich Garden Club had done in the center of town. It's the public restrooms. And I know it's a very sideways kind of topic, but we'll get you there in a moment. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Could you please give us a little background on the Sandwich Garden Club and how it came about and maybe some of the projects that you have done?
Okay. The Sandwich Gardeners, it actually is how it started in 1998, became the Sandwich Garden Club in 2008, and it's more of a really local group. We're not a federated group, but it's a very friendly, down-to-earth group. All Sandwich residents are more than welcome. We started in some civic projects a couple years ago, and we actually started because we hold our meetings currently at First Church, and they desperately needed some help. So we do plantings at the church, and trimming and weeding and all that sort of thing. And the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce asked us to help with the restrooms. I thought, oh.
Interesting topic.
The restrooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
What can we do with that?
Yeah, what can we do with that? Well, we had a little bit of experience because we've been asked to plant bulbs by the Chamber of Commerce 2 years ago.
Yep.
And we planted 600 bulbs, I think.
Yes,
we
and
picked
thank
up
you
here.
for that. Yes.
Okay, and we're planning on doing so again. And the Sandwich Garden Club does buy some of those as well and give them to the town.
Yes. Yep.
And so we said, restrooms, I guess we could try this. So yeah, there basically was nothing there, and they got window boxes for us. And Scenic Roots and Crow Farm both very kindly donated some annual plants, and Scenic Roots has also donated some mulch. And so we've been out there digging and planting. The Sandwich Garden Club has given us we've provided shrubs and perennials, and I've had many different sessions where a lot of the members have come and helped planting and weeding and watering.
Okay. In the very beginning, this started probably about 2 years ago. This idea from the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce. Kate Bavlock is the executive director of the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things that she had wanted to do was certain beautification projects around the town of Sandwich to just appeal to not only the tourists in Sandwich, but also the local economy, the businesses, and the people who actually live in this town. When you think of public restrooms, okay,
and
come on,
said, well,
dark, damp,
right,
not such a nice place
right.
to
And
be in.
they did need a little polishing up.
Yeah,
yes.
and when you're in the historic district of downtown Sandwich, you really want to welcome your tourists with something a little brighter. I believe the town was hired to cut down a couple of the trees to make it brighter,
yes,
and allow some air circulation and more light to come in that would allow the bathrooms to dry out and be a little cleaner on the inside also. What were your experiences when you were actually planting these bathrooms?
Well, we went
Customers
down.
coming in.
Yeah, we went down, and the town did a great job. They did open it up, and there was a little bit of light there, and so we had some talent from the garden club. I just do more of the planting and organizing work, but we have some very talented people who know all the plants and the shrubs. So they designed it, and we went down and we're planting it, and we had many customers come in to use the restroom, and they were very friendly, thought we were doing a great job.
Good.
And they said, ooh, even the restrooms were in pretty good shape. So I guess it's looking good inside and much better outside.
There was something she mentioned in a segment about the daffodil program that the Chamber is doing and a lot of the daffodils that they have planted. To give you a little background, the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce the last couple of years have sold daffodils for a beautification project of their own. What they wanted to do originally was bring back the old daffodil days from yesteryears, where they would plant thousands and thousands and thousands of daffodil bulbs along 6A in the roadways of Sandwich. The Sandwich Chamber of Commerce wanted to bring that down a little bit and plant in the business districts of Sandwich, with the Industrial Park, Heritage Plaza, Cotuit Road, 6A in East Sandwich, the Marina District, Merchants Square, and Jarvis Street, Main Street. Do a little bit of the business districts to kind of wake up the areas, especially in the spring when we don't have a lot of color and there's not a lot of people around. In years past, the Sandwich Garden Club has bought hundreds and hundreds to plant, and they've also volunteered to plant more than they've actually purchased. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. I think Donna wants to see us rivaling Nantucket with daffodils.
A little bit.
Right?
A
Yeah.
little.
Okay.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay. Okay.
Baby steps.
Right. Okay. I wasn't there the first year we did the planting, but I understood they did at least 600 then, and I know we did 600 last year because I had the honor of being the civic chairman. So I said, okay, how do we do this? And somebody said they have augers. I said, okay, I'll find out what an auger is. And we shopped around and people said, oh, they had them, and we'd go and they didn't have them. But we found a big auger. I couldn't handle it.
The drill?
The drill. And of course that was all construction, and it was hard. There's blacktop, rocks, I mean, you name it, in the gravel. So my poor husband got down there and he probably did 400 of the holes, along with many members, at least 8 to 10 members. So we did almost 600 daffodils in that area in front of the church in Shawn Pond. And then they looked lovely. They really came out nice. The town came down and they were awesome. They actually trimmed around 500 daffodils. It was just incredible. And then of course they did it a second time. But the third time, I think they'd had it.
They got tired of it and they just mowed it down.
They mowed them. So it'll be interesting to see whether these 400 or 500 daffodils return this next spring.
Well, for those of you who don't know, when you plant daffodils and the flowers have gone by, you usually leave the leaves themselves until they turn brown, because the daffodils have to absorb all the sunlight and energy that they can, send it down into the bulb. Your indication of when to actually mow down the daffodils is when the leaves actually fall over and start to turn yellow or brown. It could have been a little premature, but
just
we'll find out next year.
But we will see whether they come back, and maybe they'll come back as kind of miniature plants.
Yeah. And this year you're planning on doing another 600?
Yes, we are. And we've been looking at sites, trying to get ideas from members. I know our president, Allison Carbonis, has been sending out email and say, please give me some ideas for where to plant. And we're looking at maybe 130. There's an area that's been cleared with the construction, and at the end of Cotuit Road coming into 130, and the areas of construction, I guess, along there.
Yeah, because all the vegetation has been cut out, so there's really not a lot of greenery there. And from what I remember, there's not a lot of plant material whatsoever coming up that way.
Nothing. It's just all grass. I mean, they made a beautiful area. It's nice and wide. So people stopping at Cotuit, stopping at the light by San Sebastian, it would be awesome to see that early yellow.
And again, coming into the business districts and the shopping areas of another part of Sandwich, it's very important to lighten up these areas and welcome your customers.
And you mentioned 6A along this area in 6A by the fire department.
Yep, Grady Island, around the fire departments. That's another area that's just, I don't want to say unwelcoming, but it's not a very pretty area to look at when you're entering into Sandwich. There's a lot of brick buildings. There's not a lot of color. There's not a lot of gardens. There's not a lot of places to actually have gardens. But any small space can be transformed.
With bulbs, that early thing. Yeah. And of course, our favorite project, the restrooms. It's been suggested that we take the area between the sidewalk and the home that's next to the restrooms and put a lot of bulbs in there. It's not much grass in there, a lot of roots and gravel, and we can always bring in dirt. Again, the town was very cooperative and brought in a lot of dirt around the big pine tree so that we could put annuals there this year.
Yeah.
And it looks nice. They've got mums, and patients are even doing well, even though all over the Cape they're not doing very well.
Yep.
They like the restroom area.
They like the dampness over
They
by
do,
the restroom
they do.
area. So are there any other projects that you have coming up in the future?
I don't think any other major ones that I know of. We do every year, and we have to mention for the Sandwich Garden Club, we have a huge sale in the spring.
I'm so
usually
glad
the
you
end
mentioned
of
that.
May,
Yep.
early June. And of course, we're all from Sandwich, the Cape, and we all love perennials, and we all have to divide them every 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
So we dig them up and have a wonderful plant sale early spring, and it's fantastic. Well, except for the monsoon year, we had all the rains that she said we're going to have it even if we get a monsoon, and we did. We had the monsoon, and we had the plant sale. And
Did
okay.
anybody show up besides your own members
Oh,
buying plants from each other?
Everybody shows up.
Because that's usually what
it's
happens.
Just, because it's on 6A, it's a beautiful area by the fishery, by the fish hatchery,
Yes.
that
Yep.
commons area, and everybody going up and down 6A sees those big, beautiful plant signs along with the plants. Thousands, we must have thousands of plants out there. And yeah, it's a great sale, and we know it's all going to last because they're grown on Cape Cod, so they belong to the area and they do very well.
Well, thank you. We are here with Kate McGuire, who is actually the birth mother of the Island Beautification Program here in Sandwich. So we brought her in to explain the program to you and how it came about. How are you?
I'm just fine.
Good. You ready to tell your story?
Sure.
All right. Let us know how it became.
Many years ago, we had an implementation team for the preservation plan of Sandwich, and one of the people who came to the monthly meetings was Deborah Woodman, who at the time was head of the Visitors Services Board. And I came up with this idea. I said something like, "Oh, we have to do something about those traffic islands." And, you know, she groaned, of course, because my ideas always create a lot of work for everyone. And she said, as the person with the Visitors Services Board, that she would go back to the committee and ask for funding for signs. And you know how they've had them in Hyannis for some time, the little signs that, you know, like Steve at Coach Lake Carpet, who does such a magnificent
Letting
job.
us know whose island it is.
Who's doing all this work and sponsoring the beautification of it. And she did that part of it. And I remember she came up with 14 spaces. So I grabbed a couple of my put-upon friends, and Paul White made the signs, Visitors Service Board paid for them, and husband and friends and I went out and planted the 14 signs. We now have 27 spaces. And every year a few people drop out and a few people come on board, but we do constantly have inquiries, usually through town hall. People will see they don't know where to go, who to ask.
Correct, yeah.
So usually Diane Hinault, who is the ever-pleasant person at the real town hall in Town Hall Square, will, you know, give them my contact points, and then I'll put them on a list, and then people want certain islands and they don't want others. Paul White has kindly this past year donated 5 signs, because Visitors Service Board budget, as you probably know from just reading the Enterprise, has been drastically cut because it's, as Bob King said, heads in beds that funds that 1% for Visitors Service Board from the tax. So, and Paul does not mind at all, maybe not being the person making the signs anymore. So I am beginning to make inquiries into getting prices from other sign makers. I do encourage people to take in this sign over the winter.
Well, because on average, how many signs do you lose a year from snowplows and just winter damage?
You could lose them all if people leave them out.
Mm-hmm.
They're also a little bit on the wobbly side. Paul makes them with tall posts for the planters who really want to plant tall and have it be seen, whereas they seem to last a lot longer if you drop it down. I think immediately of the Carlton Shores Neighborhood Association, which has a small island in East Sandwich heading toward Barnstable, and they have dropped it down. We've also had, sadly, some vandalism. I do have some women in South Sandwich who have lost their signs, so they couldn't afford to buy a new sign, and the Visitor Services Board could no longer pay for anything but new signs, so new planters, so they didn't have a sign. But they have volunteered to continue planting. So there are 2 or 3 islands you will notice that do not have a sign on them, but the people kindly will continue with the program. But I'd love to be able to give them a sign. So I've just received some contact points. I want to keep it local. I want to keep it in Sandwich. I did go to South Yarmouth last year in Hyannis to get quotes. But you know, they all want to start all over and do 30 signs.
Yeah.
I need someone who is local who can understand our situation. It may only be 10 signs a year.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
How do you, when someone approaches you and decides they want to do a garden, they just full board, they go out and do whatever they want, or are there any regulations to what they can or cannot do?
The only regulations we have are kind of like based on town bylaws. They can't have a political sign, for instance. You know, it can't say the Republican Town Committee or something like that. And that has caused a little consternation by some. But no, they really have a lot of free reign.
Nothing as far as height or sight lines? If somebody wanted to plant a tree in the middle of the
I haven't had any complaints about it. I did go through Historic District, of course, with the universal sign, and if I change the sign and the font changes or the design, I will do that again. But they've been pretty user-friendly about it, and I was able to get like a blanket okay because all the signs are the same right now. Usually I tell people they can come to you, Donna, for a discount here at Scenic Roots on the materials and on equipment, which is, you know, a nice little perk for people, and they're very happy about that. If they want a particular island, I just put them on a waiting list because obviously the people who are there have priority, and I do contact people every year. You know, do you want to give this up? Do you want to continue this? And then I try to gently prompt them when we get into like shoulder season, because it's a really big season on Cape Cod and Sandwich, particularly with all our museums and historic resources. You know, kind of spruce it up a little bit. 99% of the people are not irritated by me. 1% are like, hey lady.
Well, because they're very dedicated. If they're going to go out,
if they're going
to put their time and their money and their effort and energy out into these islands, and they're not going to drop it and forget that it's out there.
Yeah.
For the majority.
For the majority. I also have to give credit to Paul Tilton at Department of Public Works and Dick Saline and their crew. Dick Saline Waters, you'll see him running around and he prays for rain because I keep increasing the number of islands on him, you know. And the list that you get, I keep, you know, everything on the computer. Paul gets, and he passes on to Dick, etc. So the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, and they are really good. Sometimes I'll see something that isn't large enough for somebody to take on, but it's a mess. And you know, if I bake enough and bake blueberry muffins, they'll go out and chop it down for me.
So are you looking to expand within the next year? Are there any more islands that you see out there that we could take on?
Well,
or are we good with the...
No, we're never good. There are still areas that I think need improvement. Somebody just picked up the very small island in front of the Forest Hill School.
Yep.
Willing to do it, that's great. Laurie Goddard picked up in back of Town Hall even though she's also doing an island at Quaker Meeting House and Katuitt Road, and as you know, those are a couple of islands. We mentioned that the space earlier in front of the antique store on Route 6A next to the package store, that needs to be done. I also would like to see the areas along, I call it the kind of ugly part of 6A, the industrial part of 6A, where there's a buffer of grass or weeds in front of different businesses. Like I know Bank North, the landscaper called me and said, "Are you doing that space?" I said, "No, we're not doing that space," because he was being hired by Bank North and obviously didn't want to include it in his quote if we were doing it. But if you drive along, you will notice on both sides, you know, all of a sudden you hit jungle.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see those areas cleaned up, and as long as Business Service Board can at least afford a new sign, people don't have to necessarily have a garden there. If they just want to maintain a space, we can give them a sign.
So you see a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah, I drive
town,
around
obviously.
and check them all the
You're
time.
constantly taking
I'm
notes.
constantly mentally taking notes.
This island's next. This piece of town is next. This piece of town is next.
Right.
So basically what we're saying is if you want to get your hands dirty, contact Keita and she'll
Right.
get you an island.
Happy
Yeah.
to do it.
So you have a lot of work ahead of us.
Oh yeah, I mean, look around. I mean, it's greatly improved, but
Well, I think you've done a fantastic
Oh,
job
thank you.
organizing all these people and getting them to actually do the jobs that they're supposed
well,
to do. I mean, they're
you know,
absolutely
you
beautiful.
are preaching to the choir. I mean, these are people who care about this, and for the most part, they're really cooperative. And I probably don't get out there enough to compliment them. I try to remember to do that when somebody switches over their island to a fall setting or something. I try to remember to send an email and say, "Gee, thank you." You know, and I want them to have safety. They can go to Paul Tilton to get the orange vests. I know when I do my areas, I take those orange cones. Yeah, we don't want to
Well,
kill
some of
anybody.
the areas are pretty dangerous.
Oh, they
like
are.
The one on Quaker Meeting House Road in Katuitt.
Oh,
and
those are tough.
One's on Tupper Road in 6A.
Those
It's
are
pretty
tough.
tough.
But so far,
All right, good. Well, thank you so much for being here. And like
thank
we
you,
said,
Donna, for all your help with this program.
you're very welcome. I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing for the town and the residents here. So, like we said, you want to adopt an island, contact Keita. You can also honestly come into Scenic Routes if you can't get a hold of Keita, and we'll get you into her email, and we'll get you an island.
Very
Thanks.
good. Thank you.
I want to thank you for tuning in today, and I hoped you learned a lot. The next time you're traveling through the roads of Sandwich and you see all the flowers and the great landscaping that has been going on for the past couple months and the last years or so, I really want you to think of the volunteers and the people that I interviewed today and thank them for all the hard work that they're doing and then the ongoing success of these programs. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.